Hydrocarbon. Okay, good morning. It's 9:35. We will start. So we are looking at Module 6, and from your syllabus or from the Blackboard, this is on the data and business intelligence. So this is actually one of the core topics of what you're trying to achieve in this class. We know that we're taking this class is called Fundamentals of Management Information System, and you're trying to see how businesses use information system. So one of the tools or one of the resources that businesses have is data. And for you to have the data, you need to have a way of collecting the data. So this chapter helps us to walk through finding what is data, the different types of data, and how we can transform the data. The assignment for this week actually takes us a step further because it helps us to see how we can actually create a tool that can help us in collecting the data. So before we start talking about information, remember management information system, we need to start with the data. And before we have the data, we need to have a system that can help us to collect that data. So that is what the assignment for this week is all about. So a few pointers from the assignment from last week. I think most of you did very well. And we were looking at how we can try to minimize waste. So e-waste, electronic waste, and most of you give very good examples of what companies are doing now and what hopefully they should be doing in the future. And I gave you a template, and if you follow that template, most of you got full credit. Some of you might have lost some points because the question, the assignment had 3 sections, and one question asked you to tell me about companies and what they're doing. The other section 2, was asking you to tell me whether if you start a business that is helping recycling, whether that's a good business model. And the last section asked you to name 3 companies and telling me what you think they should be doing to help minimize e-waste. There were a few students who left question blank, or they did not answer, give me 3 companies. Also, there were some students who are using the same companies and had said don't use the same companies. So you might have lost a point here or there, but for the most part, most of you did very well. So moving forward, what I'm planning to do is in this section, I'm going to talk about the assignment. I'm going to walk you through the assignment because most of you might have taken Microsoft Access, which is the tool that you're using for this week's assignment some time back, and you might have forgotten how to work with it. Or you might never have taken the class in Microsoft Access. Maybe you took it in high school or something like that. So I'll walk you through how to go about working on the assignment. And I have actually tried to simplify the assignment. So hopefully at least you'll be able to learn something from that. So in this section of the class, I'm going to walk through the assignment. And then I have another class at 11. And in that class, I'm going to go through the lecture. So I'll briefly go through most content and talk about the few items here and there. So I always encourage you to read before you come to class, because if you read and then we go through the course materials, it is easier for you and you'll be able to identify and relate. If you have not read and I'm just going through the materials, it's going to look foreign to you and it doesn't add value. So my advice, excuse me, is please make sure at least you have an idea about what's being taught in the class before you attend the class. Are we together?
Yes.
Okay, so what I will do is I'll share the screen for the assignment, and this is being recorded. I'm going to post it, and also for the next class when I do the lecture, I'm going to post it. So you'll have 2 videos, and you can decide on how or when you want to watch those videos. So let me see what I can share the screen. So the assignment for this week, if I can start here before I jump out, is you read the chapter and then you answer the multiple choice questions. Then we have the voice thread. So we are going back the voice thread for the discussion. So for this week, the discussion is on voice thread. And you have why does a business need to be concerned with the quality of its data? Okay. So if you go through the PowerPoint slides and also if you read the chapter, they talk about data and why you need to have good quality data. So quality data means that the data does not have errors. The data is complete. Okay. So if a business has data that is not complete, it becomes very difficult for you to make decisions. So go through in here, give me 2 or 3 reasons. Maybe I should specify here. Give me 2 or 3 reasons why it is important for a business to be concerned with the quality of its data. Okay, because remember, it is from data that we get information, and it's from information that we get intelligence. So if you have poor quality data, then everything else down the road is going to be corrupted. It's not going to be giving you the true picture of the organization or what is it that you want to do or represent. This topic can never be more important than in the times that we are in. We have this COVID and we have a lot of data out there and people using the data to make different decisions. And one thing that you're going to realize is you can make data represent what you want. Okay? So data can be used properly and data can be misused. So depending on the motive and the person who has access to the data. So if you listen to the news and you watch some channels, they're going to be telling you everything is okay, nothing is happening, COVID is going away. You watch some other channels, they say that cases are rising up. And all those decisions are based on data. Okay? There are statistics and reports that are saying if we wear masks, we're going to save this number of lives. Some people are saying masks don't help. Okay? That is all based on data. So it's very, very important that we understand this chapter. And I'll ask you to spend a little bit more time going through this chapter, read, try to understand what is going on. So that is the voice thread. Remember, you're going to make your own post and then you have to go back, watch at least 3 videos and then make a comment. And like I've mentioned before, in the comment, make sure that you're not just saying agree. Make sure that you're adding to the discussion. This is very important because most of the employers, they're saying they need people who can communicate. Communication is very, very important. It is one of the traits that employers are looking for. And you're taking a class, you're going to be graduating from a school of business, so hopefully you're going to be managers down the road. Good managers are very good communicators. So that's the discussion for this week, is through the voice thread. So the apply your knowledge, this is the section that has the assigned the question, and I provided for you this document, and this document actually is taken from your book. So sometimes you don't know where to find the question, and I prepared this document, posted it up here, and we'll go through it. So if you open this one, it shows you like the different parts of the assignment. Okay, so that is any question as I transition?
No question.
No question.
Okay, so let's see. This is an application window or Chrome tab. Data quality, MHE. Let's try that and see what that gives us. Okay, so this is the part of the assignment that you're going to be working on. It's project 28. It's called Daily Invoice. Now, if you had read the chapter, and once you read the chapter, then you come back, most of this is going to make sense. Okay, so we are told Foothills Animal Hospital is a full-service animal veterinary hospital located in Morrison, Colorado. They specialize in routine medical care, vaccinations, laboratory testing, and surgery. The hospital has experienced tremendous growth over the past 6 months due to customer referrals. Although Foothills Animal Hospital has typically kept its data service records in a workbook format, remember like in Microsoft Excel, it feels the need to expand its reporting capabilities to develop a relational database as a more functional structure. So we are going to be talking about database. This chapter talks about a database, and we are familiar with a military base. If you go to a military base, you're going to find different tools, different resources that are used in the military. So the same concept, we take that and we bring it the data. So database is a collection of data. Okay. Now we're talking about the relational. The way we are going to be organizing our data is we're going to be using the tables. And we use tables to help us in organizing the data. Now, we can actually use one table to store all the data that we want, but that will be very difficult for us to manipulate the data and also even to view the data. So to simplify that and help us in managing the data, what we do is we break down our data into one table, into multiple tables. Now think of it like this. Central has a lot of data about you. Okay, they have the bursar's office has your academic record. If you go to the financial aid office, they have your finance record. If you come to School of Business, we have your record. So we have different tables that we use to help us organize the data. Now we can use one table and store all your data in one table. It's going to be very difficult. It might actually not even fit on 5, 6, 7, maybe 10 screens. So we use multiple tables. And for us to be able to create or see the data in those different tables, we use that concept of what you're calling relational database. So relational comes from relationship. And as we start working on the assignment, you'll be able to see what we mean by this relational database. Okay? So Foothills Animal Hospital needs help developing a database specifically to do what? So what you're going to be doing is we have this hospital. Actually, I learned a lot about dogs. I didn't know that you can do all these things with dogs. So we're going to be creating a number of tables, and we are told create a customer table. So first of all, how many of you have taken Microsoft Access before? Anybody?
Never use Microsoft Access.
Okay, so Microsoft Access is actually one of the tools that you can use to help you in managing your data. Okay, it's usually at the bottom of the database management systems. We have other tools that are actually very popular and also much easier to use. And one of the upcoming tools is what is called Tableau. Okay, so if you get some time, just go on the internet and Google Tableau. Is very, very nice tool to use. Also, another tool that you can use to help you in managing your database is actually SAS. Okay, so some of you think you're taking SAS, so that's another good tool that you can use for helping with that. Okay, so we're going to be creating a customer table. Now, this customer table is going to have some fields. So fields are nothing else but columns. Okay, the columns that you have in a table. Okay, so we have what you're calling a customer table, which has the name. So in this customer table, we are going to be storing the name of the customer, the address of the customer, the phone number of the customer, and the date that the customer, the person became a customer. Okay. So one of the concepts is when you are creating a table and you have the fields, you want to make sure that the fields are unique. Okay. So for instance, when you look at the address, usually address in the US is going to be provided by, you have the location, either the home address or the apartment, and then you have what? The city, you have the zip code, all that. So when it comes time for you to create that in the table, you want to make sure that you break them down. Now, you do this, this is what is called the design. Before you actually get to the actual work of creating the table, you have to design this. And sometimes you do this on a piece of paper, you do this on a board, okay? So that is what is called business analysis. And you might have heard of what is called the business analyst. So business analysts are usually people who work with the business people. They're kind of like the bridge between the programmers and the business or the users. So if you are the owner of this hospital, you probably are not going to be the one who is going to be creating this table. So what you're going to do is you're going to need a computer programmer or somebody who has knowledge in database management in creating this table. Now, for you to be able to do that, you might have somebody who is going to be the go-between, the business analyst, who will come to you and ask you, what kind of data do you want to collect from your customer? Okay, so you tell this business analyst, I want to collect the information about the name of the customer, the address, their phone number, the date they became customers, and on like that. Okay, so that business analyst then will go to the programmer and he'll tell the programmer, this is what the customer wants. How can we design this? Okay, and then the programmer will tell him, okay, we can do this, it's going to cost this much, and on like that. Okay, and then the business analyst comes back and says, okay, I see that your customers bring pets to the store. Okay, to the hospital, I'm sorry. What kind of data do you want to collect for the pets? And then you tell him, I want to get the name of the pet, I want to get the type of animal, I want to get the breed, the gender, the color, and on like that. And then this business analyst will go to the programmer and share that information. And then there is the back and forth, okay, until you come to a conclusion, and then the programmer will now start designing the database. Now, sometimes the programmers also serve as the business analyst. So business analyst is actually another field that is growing. And if you're not very good at programming, but you like that side of the business, you can actually be a business analyst. So for you to be a business analyst, you need to have a good understanding of programming concept and also to have a good understanding of business side, because you're going to be the bridge. Are we together?
Yeah.
Okay. So I see somebody else joined in. So basically what you're doing today, we are going through the assignment. And like I mentioned before, I'll go through the lecture in my next class. So we're going to be creating this table. So we have a customer table, you have a pet table, medication. Now remember what I said, we're talking about relational database. We can actually include all this information in one table. Okay. But what will happen is that table is going to be very long. It's going to have very many fields. Okay. And when it comes time for us to manipulate this table, it's going to be a little bit difficult. So to minimize that problem or kind of eliminate that problem, we break down the information into different tables. And each table is going to have information that is kind of related to each other. Okay. So that's why we end up with a customer table, and then we have a pet table, then we have the medications table, because a customer has a pet. He brings the pet to the hospital there for a visit. So when the dog is seen by the doctor, sometimes they get some medications. So this is the type of tables that you're going to be creating. Now, since you have not used Access, or maybe some of you have used Access, what I've done is I've actually tried to simplify this. Okay, so figure AYK2 displays a sample daily invoice report. Okay, so AYK2, so we're going to be generating this report. So basically what you do is you create your tables, and then you populate those tables. So the programmer is going to create the table, and then he's going to give that database to the owner of the store, probably on a computer. And then the owner of the store is the one who is going to populate. So populate means entering the data in the database. Okay. Then once you have entered that data, then at the end of the day or at the end of the month, you can generate the report. Because remember, what you're trying to do is you're trying to collect data. So the type of report that you can generate from this type of data is like the one we have here. Okay. So hopefully by the end of the class, you'll see how we can generate this report. So figure AYK2 displays a sample data invoice report that the Foothills Animal Hospital accountants have requested. Foothill Animal Hospital organizes its treatments using the codes displayed in figure AYK3. So remember now, this is information that you're going to be getting from the owner of the hospital. So if you're the one who is doing the writing, you're the one who is doing the code, or you're the business analyst, you're going to be getting this information from the owner or the customer, okay? And they're telling you this is how they organize their work. Yeah, treatment. So we have the treatment code, and then you have the treatment, and you have the price. So this treatment code is called this. It's called what? Is it previous shot, tetanus shot? I don't know. And it's worth $10. Okay. General exam is given this code, and then it costs that. And this is the same thing that we do even for human beings. So there is something that's called medical coding. So when you go see a doctor, they have to put, and whatever they do during the visit, they have to put that in the system, because based on the code, that's how much they get paid, and that's how they're able to bill the insurance companies. So this is the information that you collect from the customer. And then you have, so basically, that information you get from the customer, and then the entities and primary keys for the database have been identified in link AYK. So down here, actually it shows you the different type of tables that you're going to be having. So you're going to have entity is the same as a table. In database jargon, entity is also referred to as a table. And we're going to have a customer table, a pet table, a visit detail table, a treatment table, and a medication table. So primary key, when you go through the chapter concept, you're going to find that every table needs to have either 1, 2, or 3 unique fields. A unique field that is used to identify the entries, or what we are calling the record in the table. So for instance, an example of what we can use as a primary key for a student is a student ID. If you go to Central and you have a student ID, there should be no any other student who has the same ID as you. That is what you're calling primary key. Now, we can also use your social security number as your primary key. And sometimes we have what's called a composite key. Okay? So that means that you have table that has two fields that are used as a primary key. Okay, and in this example, actually, we have one like that. Okay, so you see here in the visit detail, we here have visit number and line number, a composite key or composite key. So this means that we have two fields that are used to uniquely identify records in that table. Your social security number and your student ID can be combined together to make what is called a composite key. Are we together? Anybody home?
Yes.
Okay, so what I'd encourage you to do is when we finish this, maybe you should go back and read this a little bit in more detail. And then what you can do is try to see whether you can do it on your own, and then maybe come back and watch the video and see where you are able to, how far you're able to go on your own. So far so good. So the following business rules have been identified. Remember the business analyst, you work with the owner of the business and you identify some rules. So the business is a business analyst, you talk with the business owner and he tells you that a customer can have many pets but must have at least one. So the only way that you're going to be in this database is if you have an animal. Okay? The same way, a student, for you to be considered a student at Central, you must be taking a class. You can either take one class or you can take many classes. But if you're not taking a class, you're not a student. So for this is what we are calling the business rules. And you require business rules when you're designing a database. Number two, a pet must be assigned to one and only one customer. Okay? So pet can only belong to one customer. And we are going to be seeing this when you start creating the tables. So a pet can have one or more treatments per visit, but must have at least one. So you don't bring it just for the show. Anytime a pet comes in and is going to be entered in the database, it must be getting a treatment. Okay. So that is also a way to make sure that if the owner of the business is not there and somebody brought in a pet there, you cannot be treating animals without entering them into the database. Okay. So a little bit also to provide integrity at the hospital. Number four, a pet can have one or more medications, but need not have any. Okay, so what that means is that you can bring a pet, maybe for general physical exam, and it does not need medication. Okay, but it can have one. So those are what you're calling the business rules, and those are going to be set by the owner of the business. As a business analyst, as the go-between between the programmers and the customer, you take these business rules and then you take them to the programmer and you tell the programmer, when you're designing the database, this is what I need you to be doing. Are we together?
Yes.
Okay, so once you're done with that, your job is to complete the following: develop and describe the entity relationship diagram. Okay, now since most of you have never taken a class, actually, anybody who is a CSB major or minor? Okay, so
I am.
okay, so this is actually very important to you. Maybe you have done this, maybe you have not done this. So you're going to be taking another class where you'll be actually working on creating this relationship. So entity is that we say entity is the same as a table. So this table that you're going to create, we're going to make sure that these tables are related. And if these tables are related, that's the only way that you're going to be able to generate a report like this. Because if you look at this report here, this report has information that's coming from the customer table. That's where we have the customer name. It has information that's coming from the what? The pet table, which has the pet name, and also the type of animal, and also it has the information that's coming from the what? The treatment table. That's where we have the treatment and the price. The only way that you're going to be able to generate a report like this is because we have created what is called the entity relationship diagram. Okay, so I'll walk you through how to do that. But in future, there's a class, if you're a CSB major, you should be able to take database management system, where they actually go into more details about how to do this. Are we together?
Yes.
Okay, so the same concept with normalization. So normalization is also another concept that is very important to a database management system, and it is used to ensure that the relationships are done in the right way, so that when you start entering the data, your data is going to be giving you the right data information. It's going to be capturing the right data. Okay, so remember the discussion for this week is on why do companies need to be concerned about the quality of the data. The quality of the data that you have starts with the design of your database management system. Okay, if you don't do very well, you don't create good relationships, if you don't use normalization, you are more likely going to be creating a database that's not going to be capturing the real situation. Okay, a database using the DBMS, so database management system package. So we are saying Microsoft Access. This is at the bottom, but if you understand the concepts in Microsoft Access, you're going to take those concepts and then use them in other database management systems. Like I said, Tableau is very, very easier to use, actually even more than Microsoft Access, and is one of the tools that is actually gaining prominence. So if you want to increase your value, your competitive advantage, make sure that at least you understand Access and maybe Tableau. That will give you a competitive advantage. So use all that and on like that. So what we are going to do now is we will see how we can create this. So what I've done is on the document that I created for you, and let me see whether I can open it. Where did I put it? So any questions so far?
No.
Okay, so let me see whether I can open that PDF file. So this file is actually in your book. I'm sorry, it's on Blackboard. And let me share it with you. I'm going to use the PDF file. Boom. Share this with you. Share the application window. The Chrome tab 4090. Okay, so this is when you go to Blackboard and you open that file, that's how it's going to appear. So it has all the instructions that I went through, all the way down like that. And then the last page here, see this page here. So this is actually what you call the entity relationship diagram. So what I've done here is a kind of cheating for you. I'm giving you a cheat sheet. So these are the different tables that you're going to be creating. Remember that information that we are told, you create all these tables. You have the customer table, the pet table, the visit detail, the treatment, and the medication. And then you create the relationship. So the entity relationship, this is that. And anytime that you see the key represents the primary key. So this is the field that is used to uniquely identify the records. Okay? So all the entries. So remember the columns are what you're calling the fields, and then the rows. Okay, the rows are what you call the record. So the entries in one row make up record. So a record is made up of different fields. Okay, and then the pet, under the pet table, we have the pet ID. And then the visit, we have the visit number, the visit detail, all the way like that. And then we have the relationship. So you do this in Excel. I'm sorry, in Microsoft Access, and I'll walk you through that. Any question?
No questions.
Okay, so to do that, create those tables, what you'll do is you want to open Microsoft Access. So Microsoft Access, the way you open it is the same way you open Microsoft Excel. You'll go to your computer, and then you look for Microsoft Access 2016 or 2019 or whichever you have. I have 2016 on my computer. And usually when it turns, let's see whether I can share this. Let me see how I can share this. Share the application screen to application window access. Okay, there. Okay, you see that? So this is when you click Microsoft Access, that is how it's going to be. Okay? That's the screen that you're going to have. So usually it opens here, and you have, if you have other Access objects or database that you've been working with, you're going to see them here. Now, since we are creating a new one, you start with a blank desktop database. Okay, so click on the blank one, and it's going to give you this window here. Okay, it asks you where you wanted to save your file, and then you have to give your database a name. So database. Okay, so database is made up of different tables. Okay, So what we have in here is you give it the name that you asked to give in the instruction. So for this case, I'm going to say, well, give me a name that I should use for this. Somebody?
Assignment.
Are you guys there?
Assignment 6.
Say that again.
Assignment 6.
Say that again.
Assignment 6.
Okay, so we're going to call it assign. Okay, very good. Assignment 6. Okay, and then once you type that, you click on create. Now make sure you know where you're saving your file. Okay, if you're not very sure where to save it, you can always click here and browse, and then the same way that you save a file. I'm going to click on create. Let me see, save this on the desktop, and click on the desktop and just drop it like that, and I'm good. So you see it's changed that to desktop, and then you create, and you're going to have this window. So this is the next window that you're going to be presented. So this is very, if you look at it, you have the ribbon. Okay, the ribbon has the file, it has the home, it has the create, then you have the tools or commands. So like I mentioned before, Microsoft applications usually tend to use the same or similar interface. Okay, so you're going to start by default, it gives you table 1. Okay, if you create a new database, it's going to give you table 1. And you can see up here, I have my assignment right here. So that's my database. And then the database is going to have different tables. So what I want to do is now I want to create the different tables. And to create the different tables, you're going to be creating the different fields and then specifying what type of data do you want to go into those fields. Okay, so you click on the table here, okay, and then remember the fields. So by default, it's going to show you the fields. What you want to do is you don't want to type anything here because this is what is called the database view. So once you click on the table, you want to move your mouse pointer up here and click on the arrow pointing down. So you're going to have these two different views. You have what's called the datasheet view and the design view. You come to the datasheet view when you are populating the table, when you are entering data in the table. But now, because we are designing the table, you want to make sure that you are on the design view. So you'll click on the design view, okay? And once you do that, you have this pop-up window that is asking you to give the name of the table, okay? So the name of the table. So the first table that you're creating is called what? Somebody? What is the name of the first table that you're going to be creating?
I'm not sure.
Okay, so if you're not very sure about the table that you're going to be creating, you need to come back to this screen here. So when you start doing it yourself, this is how you'll know which tables you're creating. And let me see. So these are the tables that we are creating right here. Customer table, pet table, medications table, visit table, and on like that. You can also tell them from this entity here: customer, pet, visit detail, treatment, and medication. And this is the primary key. And I said I'm giving you a cheat down here. Okay, so you have the customer table, the pet table, the visit detail table, the treatment, and the medication table. Okay, now there's going to be another assignment down the road that will be similar to this but different concept. So if you learn how to do this and you do it well, it's going to be easier for you in the next assignment. So these are the tables that you're going to be creating, and these are the different fields that you're going to have in this table. So remember, customer table, pet table, visit detail table, treatment, and medication. So we'll come back to our screen. And where were we? What's the application window? Access. Okay, so that's where we are. So what is the table? The first table that you're creating is what?
Customer table.
Very good. So when you click here and you go to the design view, you're going to have this pop-up window that is asking you whether you want to change the name of the table. And of course we want. So you want to just type customer. The table is customer, and then you click OK. And then what will happen is you have the name changed here, and now you're going to the design view. Okay, so this is where now you specify the fields that you want. Okay, so remember that document that I just showed you at the end that has the different tables and the different fields. That's now what you use to reference. So by default, Access will always give you the first one as the ID. That's not what we want. The field name is ID. Our first field name for the customer table is the customer name. So you type customer number, customer number. Now, what type of data do you want this to be? Now, if you take that class in database management system, you'll go into more details about what is the different data types that you can have. But for this class, the customer number, just use the short text. Okay, and then once you do the short text, you'll be able to see the different properties that you can have here. CIS says that customer number cannot be more than 255 characters. And then sometimes you have a format, like the telephone number, there's a format for it. Security number, there is a format for that. You can set that. And you have seen this. Anytime that you go on the internet and you're entering some data into a form, sometimes you actually have a predefined format in which you have to enter the data and on like that. So spend some time if you want to do this. You have what you're calling the validation rule. Sometimes you enter some information, it tells you it is wrong because it has been said that you have to enter it in a certain way. Like in the US, there is a way that you have to enter the date. If you go to Europe, it's a little bit different. In the US, I think we start with the month. In Europe, we start with the day, and on like that. So another field that you're going to have, so you click down here, and then you have the customer name, and you can use short text also. And then you have the street or the apartment, APT. I'm sorry. Apartment. Now remember what I said is always very important that you break down the fields to small manageable pieces. Okay, so instead of saying street and you put everything together, you want to break it down. So you have the street and then you have the city, and this is very important because when you are looking at your data, you might want to just generate a code that just shows you the city where your customers are coming from or the zip code. If you have lumped everything together, it's going to be very difficult for you to generate such a report. But if you break down this information like this, it's very easy for you to do that. Okay, so short text, and then you have the state, short text, and then you have what is that, zip code, and zip code you can actually use a number. Okay, you can use the short text also, but you can also use a number. Okay, and then you have the phone number. And you can use short text or number, whichever you prefer. And down here, you can actually come and set how you want the phone numbers to be specified. If you want the first 3 digits to be in parentheses, you can do all that. And then you say this person has been a customer since when. Okay, this is a date. So you can come down here, click on the arrow pointing down, and then you come here and you choose date and time. Okay, so that's the first table we are calling the customer. Okay, it has all the field names that we want. And then you click on save. So that's the first one. Once you're done with that, now you want to go back to the next table, okay? You're not going to be entering any data at this level. You're not going to be creating any relationship. You want to make sure that first create all your tables or your entities. Are we together?
Yes.
Okay, so once you finish that, you click on create, okay? And then it gives you this option of creating another table. So you click on a table, and by default, it creates for you another table down here. Then you click on that table, okay? Then you go to the views and you want to go to the design. It gives you the option of changing the name of the table, and this table is called the pet table, okay? So you click OK, and by default, it gives you the ID. We don't want that. So we want to have the pet ID, like that. That's our going to primary key. And then you can use the short text. And then you go to the next one, you have the customer number. And then you have short text. Now, if you remember, in the customer table, we had the customer number. And now in the pet ID, we have the customer number because that's how we are going to be able to relate the pet to the customer. Okay? And that will help us when you're creating the relationship. So remember, we talked about entity relationship and you're talking about the relational database. So for us to be able to create a relational database, we need to have keys, what are you calling the primary keys in another table. it's going to be what's called a secondary key or a foreign key. Okay, so if you have a primary key in one table and then a field that is a primary key in one table, then that field is used in another table, but is not a primary key, is going to be a foreign key. So that field is going to help you in creating the relationship. So when you go through the notes, you're going to come through that concept of a primary and a foreign key. That's what we mean by that. A pet name. Now, if there's a question, let me know. I might be moving a little bit fast because I'm trying to finish as much as possible. Pet name, you can use short text. Any questions so far? Type of animal. And on and on. I'm not going to put all of them. I'm going to leave them at that. So you can maybe breed, do breed, and that is. Okay. Now, sometimes there might be like the gender, and then they go back and they have something like neutered or spayed. Okay, so if you have to do that, sometimes you can use the yes or no. So some of the option, if it's only two options, you can say yes or no. Okay, if it's a payment and you're using money, you can say that data type is going to be currency. Sometimes you might have a hyperlink. Sometimes you might have to attach a file. Okay, so that's why you go sometimes on a database and you're entering some information and it asks you to attach a file. It has to have that specification that somebody can attach a file. Okay, and on like that. Sometimes there's something calculated. Sometimes there's lookup wizard. So lookup is where you're given some options and you can only select a certain number of options. So like sometimes they ask you to select your gender, male, female, you don't want to reveal. That's what we mean by that. So we're going to stop at that. And then what you do is you save, then you go to create. And now you're going to be doing another table. So another table, and this table is what we are calling a visit. Any question? Any question? Visit number is the primary key. This always shows you the primary key. And then we have the pet ID. So you see we're repeating the same field. So this is now a foreign because it was a primary key in another table and we're repeating it here. It becomes a foreign key. And we can use the auto number. Auto number is actually going to be automatically generated by the system for you. Okay. So if you want to do that, you can do that. But for this, just use short text. And then we have the visit date. And on like that. So you're going to be completing all this. So keep going all the way down. And then after that, I'm going to save that. And I'm going to go to another table. So let me know if there's a question. I'll see my tables are increasing. And I'm going to click on that table and go to the design. So always make sure you click on the table that you want to change. And I'm going to have visit table, and click OK. And if you remember, this visit table had what you're calling composite key. So this, let me show you this a little bit quick. And I'm going to, sorry to keep going back and forth. I want to make sure that you understand the concept. And where was this boy or girl? Right here. So this is what I'm doing. You see, I'm going through all the fields, the different fields. Now the tables that I'm creating, I'm not finishing all the way down. I'm just putting in some information. You're going to be making sure that you include all the information. I'm doing this table now. I have this and then this. So what I'm trying to do is, come on, yeah, right there. So this is what I'm doing. I have the customer number is the primary key, the pet number is the primary key, visit number is the primary key, visit detail, visit number, and line number are composite key. So that means is a table that has two fields as a primary key. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll come back to my Excel over here, and what was it right here? Okay, so we have the visit table, and one of the primary is the visit number. Okay, I'm going to use short text, and then the other one is the line number, and short text also. Now you see only visit number by default is taken as a primary key, but I want both of them to be the primary. So what you do is you want to bring the mouse pointer here, the same way that you're doing in Excel. You bring the mouse pointer here and then you see it changes. Click it down and then drag it down. Okay? So you want to select those two. Okay? Bring the mouse pointer to the first one, click and hold the left mouse button, and then you drag it down. And once those two are selected, you move your mouse pointer to the primary key here, and then you click on it, and by default, it's going to add another key to the next row. Okay, so now both of them are primary keys. That's what you call composite, because it's made up of two. I hope I'm saying the word right. We have the visit number, and then we have the treatment code. Now, and there's a short text. Now, that treatment code is a primary key in another table that you're going to see very soon. And then you have medication code. So before you do this, you have to go through what's called the analysis. That is that communication we spoke about between you and the business analyst and the programmer, because you have to get all this before. And usually what people do sometimes is they rush into creating the tables and programming before they have actually figured out. What I've said is anything that you can do using a computer, you can do it manually. 99% of things you can do them manually. Okay? So before you automate, you need to learn how to do it manually. Okay? So you can. So that's where we are. We finish with that. We click on save, recreate, and you go to another table. And this table, always remember to click on the new table, and then you go to the design. This is the treatment table. The treatment. Click OK. And we got the treatment code. Are you getting what we're doing? Nobody?
Yes.
Okay, so price, we say price, you can use currency if you want, like that. And then you have all these fees. You don't have to worry about this for now. But if you are CSB major or minor, you need to worry about this, because this is what you're going to be doing down the road. Okay, so we have that, and we finish with that. Click on save, and then create the last table that you're going to be creating. So usually what you'll have is, before you do all this, you'll have maybe a manual document or a document that you're reading from. Okay, because you can be doing this. I mean, you can do them from memory, but yeah, always good to have something that you're looking at to minimize errors. Medication. So you have the medication table, and since they are tables, you don't want to keep typing like table. Okay, so that's okay right there. And then we have the medication code, and we're going to be using short text. Now, something I forgot to say is the description. Because you're the one who is designing this, somebody else might come 2 years down the road and they want to modify this database. Okay, it's always good to give a description. For this class, I'm not asking you to do that, but anytime that you're designing a database or you're writing a computer program, it's always good to give a description of what is medication code. Okay, so you can say maybe this code that is used in your hospital or is national or wherever. Just give a description, so if somebody comes back a week, or even yourself, when you come back, you remember what that was. So you have the medication, and then you have the medication name. Yeah, I'm telling you, I learned a lot about dogs when I was going through this. I didn't know all this. Do they have insurance for dogs? This is a lot.
Yes, they do
Anybody?
have insurance for dogs.
Okay, that's good. So medication code, medication name, price. I didn't even know dogs go for physical therapy. Yeah, somebody was telling me they even have like what, like a lodging where you can go, take a dog for a lodging, like if you're going on a trip.
Yes.
Cool. I want to be a bat in my next life. Maybe after that I can be, I don't know. Anyway, that's where we are, price. So we finished with the tables, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tables. So save that. So far, so good. Now we are going to be doing what's called the entity relationship, creating the relationship, because these tables, they are not related the way they are. If you enter information and you want to generate a report, you won't be able to do that. So what you want to do is to create the relationships. You want to click on the database tools. see database tools, and then you click on the relationship. So if you click on the relationship, you'll have this pop window. Okay? This pop-up that shows you all the different tables. So we have all the different tables, and you want to create the relation between these different tables. So what you do is you click on the first one, and then you hold the shift key and click the last one. Okay, so now you have selected all the tables, and then you click add, and you can close this, and now you have all your different tables here. You can move this one down here like that. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you can move them around. You have a customer has what? A pet. So if you want, just bring the mouse pointer up here, click and hold, and you can move them around. You can adjust the size like that. So a customer has a pet, and the pet makes a visit. So you can move this one here if you want. And the pet, so the visit, there are some visit. Actually, this is supposed to be visit detail. So remember that visit detail, not visit table. So visit detail, and then you have the treatment and some medication. So those are our tables, but they're not related. So the next question asks you to create entity relationship diagram. So what you do is you have this primary key here, customer number, and then you have the customer number here. So this is the primary key in this table, and is a foreign key in this table. Okay. So the way you do the entity relation, the way you create the relationship is by linking the primary key to a foreign key. What you do is you bring the mouse pointer here, click and hold, and then you drag. And then when you drag, you'll see some stuff happening. And then what you do is you bring it on top of the customer number and you drop it. And then when you drop that or you release the mouse button, you're gonna see this pop-up window that is asking you for the relationship. And for this, just make sure that is one-to-many. And basically what that means, one-to-many, is a customer can have more than one pet. Remember the business rule. That was the business rule. Okay? And then just click create. And once you do that, you're going to see this arrow right here. Okay. Now, in some of the software, it's actually going to show you something like one here and then an infinity sign over here. That is showing you that a customer can have as many pets as they can afford. Okay. So that's now we're doing the entity relationship diagram, okay, or relationship. Now, the pet ID is a primary key here, is a foreign key right here. So do the same thing. Click and hold, drag and drop. Okay. We have one-to-many and create. Okay. So a pet can make as many visits as is allowed. Okay. And then you have the visit. So what happens during the visit? It has to be visit number. You have the visit number here. So to create that relationship, click and hold and drop. One-to-many, create. Same thing here. That's not very clear. If you want to do it like that, you can do that. And actually, you'll see then like an arrow pointing down here, okay, from here to here. And then you're going to be doing the treatment. We have the treatment tables. During the visit, there's going to be some treatment. Okay? So treatment code is a foreign key here, is a primary key here. So bring the mouse pointer, hold, and drag it right there. And you create, click on create, and there's a medication. So if a dog gets some medication, you want to make sure that they have some information in the medication. So medication code is a foreign key here, but it's a primary key here. So you click on that, then you click create, and you have all those relationships now established. So now you have what's called the entity relationship. So the next thing you can do is to do the normalization. We are not doing that for this class. So are we together so far? So
Yeah.
what I just did is what is represented by this table here. And I'm going to come back here, and I'm sorry for keeping going back and forth. Okay, so this is what is represented. So you see what I'm talking about here? You have 1 to infinity, 1 to infinity, 1 to all the way like that. We have those relationships. So when you're doing your work, make sure that you relate with all this all the way down here, because if you look at mine, I did not go all the way down for some of them. So make sure that you do that. Okay, so let's get back to our database so we can finish this. We should be finished soon. So in case somebody has another appointment, I don't want to hold you back for long. This is going to be what is that thing called? Posted on Blackboard, I guess. Okay, so that's where we are. So this is our entity relationship diagram. It's showing all the relationships. Okay? Now what we want to do is we want to populate. We want to put the data into the system. So now what you'll do is you click on save. Okay? Now you can click on each of these tables to populate. Okay? So double click on customer, and now when double click on customer, it gives you the option to put the data. You'll come in here, and if you want to see this in full, you can expand this. So I'm not going to give you the data. You're going to create this data for your own. So make sure you have at least 10 customers. Okay, that should not be very difficult. And you can give them customer number 0100. Okay, and the name is John. Now, sometimes you actually have information that is like first name, last name, middle initial, all the way like that. For this case, just say customer name. Okay, so John who? Matthews, I don't know. And the street is what? Outside. And the city, and have the state, you have the zip code, the phone number, customer, all the way like that. So make sure you have 10 of those. Same thing you do with the medication. Okay? So there was actually a table that showed you about the medication. So you don't have to make this up. So on the medication, there's a table that shows you about the medication. If you look at the notes from that document, is there a medication? Actually, that's the treatment codes. Okay? So get some information about the medication and the name of the medication and the price. That should not be difficult for you to get. And then on the pet, so we're assuming that you're the owner of this business now. So you have the pet ID and the customer number. Okay, so you know the customer who came in. Out of that list that you have for 10 customers, make sure one of that person is here. Okay, and then populate that type of animal, different types of breed, get that information, give me 10 of those, and then go back to the treatment. So the treatment, you don't have to come up with these ones because you're given that in figure AYK.3. Okay, in that document, there is a treatment. You have the treatment code and the treatment and the price. And then on the visit, so the visit number, ID, and the visit, and then the visit detail, that's the visit detail. You have the visit number, line number, and treatment code, and the medication. Calculate that and at least make sure that you have at least 5 to 10 entries. Are we together? Go. Life
Yes.
goes.
Yes.
Okay, so that's what you have. So by the time you're finished with your thing,
Mm.
then you'll come back here and you create for me a report. Okay, so you click on create, and remember that report I mentioned about. You click on create. Once you have populated your table, then you click on create, and then you want to use the report wizard. So you want to use the report wizard. So you click on the report wizard, and it's going to give you these options here. So when you look at the report, on the note that I gave you, this report has customer's name. So you click here to select the customer table. And once you click the customer table, it gives you all the fields. So you have the customer name, click on it, and then move it right here. Okay. And then you want to have what? A pet. So from pet, you go to the pet table, you have the pet name. So you have the pet name, click on that, move it like that. Type of animal. Okay, so breed, maybe that was the type of animal. Click on that. And then we have the treatment. So you'll go to the treatment table like that. And from the treatment table, you're getting the type of treatment. So you have the treatment, and then you're also getting the price. And the price selected, and you put it like that. Okay, so that's the report wizard. And then you click on OK. And a report wizard is nothing else but is an automated way that helps you somebody to be able to create documents. Report. So it shows you that option. That's how your information is going to be viewed. And you want to have the customer as the first one all the way like that. Then click OK. And you want to add any grouping levels? Not at this time. Click OK. And you want to do any ascending? Say no for now. And then just click OK. And you're going to be using the stepped. So stepped is if you look at the document that I provided with you, that's how it is structured. For now, just use that, use portrait, then click OK, and then you finish. So your report here like that. Now, since my data is empty, I don't have any information. Okay? But if I had some data, then I'll be able to see some of that information right here. Okay, so I have my customer name, the pet name, the breed, the treatment, and then you have the data all the way down here. And you can see I have the report. So what you're going to do is you save all this, and then remember that assignment. So that is the one that you're going to upload. Okay, you upload the database, and then I'm going to open it and see what it looks like. So if you give me one more minute, I'll show you something real quick. And let me see what I can show you how your data should look like. Open. Okay, so this is saving all what you've been doing. And that, actually, that's not the one I want. So give me 2 more minutes. And sample dog treatment, maybe. Okay, so this is how, when you relate your data, it should look something like this. So you have all the names like that, and then the medication like that. So this is thing you can Google online. Okay, you can find people who have dogs, and they can tell you what the dogs get. The pet, you have different pet ID and the customer name and pet name, flower, shadow, indigo. Wow, interesting. And anyway, ooh, treatment. Okay, so I think you're given this information on the treatment, and then you have the visit. Okay, so visit number. You can make these things up. Okay, and you have pet ID and on like that. Then the visit detail, visit number, line number, okay, treatment, and medication. So try to do as much as you can, and hopefully you should be able to learn something out of this. Any questions?
No.
Yeah, it might look a little bit overwhelming, but I think it's one of the most important concepts that you should gain out of this class, and something that down the road is going to be useful. So I'm going to start recording. Like I said, I'm going to post this on Blackboard, and then in the next class, I'm going to do the lecture. So kind of I go through the course material and revisit some of these concepts, and I'm going to post that video also. So you should have 2 videos by the end of the day.